for watching the GRCC Future Tech Careers YouTube channel. The video you're about to watch is a recording of our event on March 3, 2025, titled Pathways to IT, a discussion with Joanna Udo. If you stick around until the end of the video, two QR codes will pop up on your screen, an event attendance form and an interest form. The event attendance form, once scanned, will give you a space to provide feedback on this video. Tell us what you liked and what you didn't like. Your feedback helps us plan more events in the future that best align with our students' interests and goals. The other form, the interest form, provides you a space to give us your contact information so we can keep you up to date on all things future tech. That's it. Now, enjoy the video. All right, from my side of things, it's officially 4:30. So to everyone who came in person and everyone who's on Zoom, I wanted to say thank you for coming to our Future Tech Careers Conversation event today. This is a part of our Career Conversation series where weekly and multiple times a month, Future Tech Careers brings in tech professionals from all parts of the tech industry to talk about what it is that they do, tell you a little bit about their career path, and just provide you with more insight on the tech industry in West Michigan. So this evening we have joining us Joanna Udo, and Joanna, I'll give you the stage.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me, Linus. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I am traveling today, so Zooming. But my name is Joanna Udo. I currently work for Corewell Health, which, as some of you may know, is a little known healthcare organization here in our community. I started working at Corewell Health oh my goodness, over 13 years ago. And my career path has been all over the place. I went to college hoping to become a network administrator. So I studied computer networking and network security. And as I was taking some classes, I took an A+ type class. So that's kind of where they taught you the basics of a computer, how to take them apart, fix them. And I was really excited about that. And I thought for a fact that's what I wanted to do. So I took a few extra classes and graduated with an associate in what I believe was called like computer support. Something. I don't remember what the full program was called. I got hired into Core. I was hired as a contractor into Corewell Health while I was taking that program. And at that time, I was working on software licensing. So back then, everything was like most things were not digital. So we had every time you bought like a Microsoft license for Word and the different applications in the system, they came in a CD form, and you'd have to fill out the paperwork, store it on like network drives, scan the CD drive into a network folder. And they had started a project to just digitize everything and have all of those software stored online instead of in a cabinet, and they hired me to do that. A little bit after doing that, I moved into actual desktop support, which was more aligned with that program that I was going to school for an associate for. And I really, really loved that. I love taking computer apart. It was the best thing because growing up, I would always take apart things at home. I took apart our radio, I took apart cell phones, I took apart everything. And my mom would scream up and down. So imagine my excitement when I went to college and find out that you can actually have a job just taking things apart. Well, what I quickly realized in technology was that if you are not aware of all the different areas, most people think that technology is just tech support or a service desk or network administrator. And what I appreciated after going to like Corewell Health or formerly Spectrum at the time was just the variety of things that existed, from database administration to network engineers, yes, but also data center engineers, which I wasn't even familiar with was a thing, right? Like the serial people that are storing servers, switches, routers in a data center and managing them. That was not something I was aware of. I ended up moving into working in the network operations center. And in the operations center, we got to see the variety of things that happen at the data center. Um, Web development was something that I didn't have as much exposure to. I knew a little bit of HTML. I ended up getting an internship doing some web development as well, so I really enjoyed that. Um, but ultimately realized that picking one particular thing was not necessarily something I needed to do and had to figure out on day one, but was more so like, what do you enjoy in the time? And knowing that technology afforded me all these different options to be able to try my hands on different things. So not going to bore you with my entire career path, but from that web development, I was able to move into the network operations center. I already mentioned I moved into being a voice engineer, and these are the people that build phone systems. So for the hospital, if you ever call Coral Health or any of the big companies and you got a menu in front of it and it's like, thank you for calling XYZ company. For this person, press one. Like that was part of my job, just making sure that we have phone systems that are connected to the network with the right phone numbers, that when you press one, it actually goes to um, the right department that it's supposed to go to. I moved in from that into infrastructure consulting. So we were the liaison between the business and all things infrastructure. So your database, your network, the phones, storage, all of that, just helping teams understand uh, what they need for their systems. Because ultimately, every application that we build, every hardware that we have in the environment eventually needs some connection back to the infrastructure to actually function. And today, I currently manage a team, and my team is End User Technology Services. And it's very intriguing because all of that collective experience that I've had doing a little bit of everything has really come together in this role for me. In this role, my team sets the standards for um, hardware, end user what we call end user hardware. So everything from computers, like we decide that our computer standard should be a Lenovo or a Dell, in which exact models for the different use cases. Your phones, so rough numbers out there. I've got my team is responsible for about 60,000, over 60,000 computers, 12,000 iPhones, some maybe 5,000 iPads, along with other things like TVs and all of that. And hardware endpoints, or whether it's end user hardware or endpoints is what you choose to call it. It's also some of the things that we forget a little bit in IT as we talk about all the different things like AI or network support or database administration. Ultimately, to all of those things need an endpoint to run on. And a lot of times people don't think about that. We're not thinking about the end users. How are they going to interact with my system, right? So whether you're building a website, for example, how is it going to run on iPhone? How is it going to run on Android? How is it going to run on a computer or a tablet? So one of the things my team does is like we understand all the different workflows within the organization, make sure we've tested them on all the different devices before we approve which one should be primarily used for those applications. And yeah, that is a little bit about me. And I'm not sure, Linus, if this is like a question format or I can just go on.
Yeah, so we do normally do question and answer at the end.
Okay.
So we can open up the floor to any questions that any of you may have. If you're in person, feel free to raise your hand. And if you're on Zoom, feel free to drop your question in the chat and I can read it out for you. So first off, DNL, if you want to ask a question. And Joanna, if you can't hear them, please feel free to let me know and I can repeat them.
All right, thank you.
Hi, how's it going? I'm DNL. I was wondering, what are important like certifications for entry level people wanting to go into IT?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, I think I think certification sometimes is maybe a little overdone, but I do know that it is a way to be able to set people apart. So if I was going to hire 2, 3 candidates and they all had the same background, the same level of experience, that certification definitely would set them apart a little. I would say something like A plus is really good because it covers a little bit of everything for an entry level position. Network plus is also a good one. And there is, I don't know, there's another one, ITIL, which usually focuses on the kind of the back end processes that relates more to like service desk and things like that. And that's also usually a good one for someone to have if they want to get started in the field.
Thank you.
And Security Plus, that was the fourth one. All right. One of the things that I also think is really important is taking a step back and just thinking about yourself, like the things that you like to do. Because one thing I have learned in technology is that there's almost something for everyone. So if you take a step back, think about the things that you enjoy doing, whether it's the classes that you like the most, or things you like doing when you were younger, or things that you just catch yourself doing more of in your free time. So this is not like homework that somebody gave you to do or like your job. There are some elements in those things that can tie back to a tech job. So for example, if you're the person that your friends are always calling to help with planning events or gathering resources to do something. Say, for example, your friends call you and they're like, oh my God, I really want to renovate my bathroom. Like, do you know who I should call? Or can you tell me what I need to do? And like this minor things, like how much time do you think it would take? Those types of questions, like that is like project management type work. And if you're constantly doing that, that means you're probably good at it and you can leverage that in tech. And maybe it's not what you want to do the whole time, but maybe you can find something that ties to it. And so if I was going with project management, for example, if I didn't want to do very, very technical things in tech, but I enjoy the coordination and organization and getting people together and setting budgets, I would go into project management. But maybe more specifically, I really enjoy cybersecurity. So I could go into project management for cybersecurity type projects. So I get to do a little bit of those things that I love. It's the same thing if you like taking things apart, right? You can do that in a variety of ways. You can be an engineer of any kind, would allow you to take things apart, or from an entry level perspective, a desktop support technician would also allow you to do those things. You get the opportunity. You can take apart computers, you can take apart printers, you can take apart phones, and all those things give you a different level of exposure to then determine which things you want to spend more of your time taking apart. And I'll pause in case there's other questions.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Hi, Joanna. A question for you. It's like, I know you're a big believer in networking and also in mentorship. What advice do you have for somebody coming out of looking for their first role, doesn't have a lot of job experience necessarily, to find a mentor and to get involved in the tech community? I know you're very involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the good things about West Michigan community is that we have resources. We have a lot of events, a lot of activities that happen. So I have an organization that's called Bridges and Tech, specifically focused on connecting uh, people of color with technology opportunities. So we help mentor, coach, identify the tech areas that makes the most sense for you. But in addition to that, we have a lot of groups. So for example, if you were interested in security, we've got a conference that happens here every year, GERCON, and it brings about probably over 2,000 people from all over the US to talk more about ethical hacking, right? So going to those events really help you understand what's out there, what types of companies are out there, because sometimes that's also the thing, we don't know who all may be hiring or who all is into tech. I'll tell you right now that every company in the world today has a tech aspect to it. And so they're probably hiring too. But coming to this event, you can meet with the vendors, the recruiters for those companies and learn more about them and get your name out there. So we also have like CSA, which is Cloud Security Alliance. They have monthly events. I serve on that board. They have monthly events you can attend. You can learn about the different topics. Connect with people on LinkedIn, but also one of the biggest things that I think people overlook is that we've got social media. And you can use social media to your advantage or not. A lot of times we're just scrolling, we're reading other people's stuff, or we're watching cat videos, or whatever the case may be, which is all fine. But LinkedIn, you can also use to showcase yourself and your skills, the things that you've already learned in school. I always find myself learning more if I talk about something, if I have to write about something. I have to learn a little bit more about that thing so that I can speak to that thing authoritatively. And just doing that sharpens your skills, but it also helps other people know that, oh, this person, Chris, Justin, Josh, sorry, I'm just calling the people I can see on the screen, is into networking or network administration, or is into project management, or is into cybersecurity, and they didn't know that about you, and now they're learning every day. So when an opportunity becomes available, they'll think about you, right? You're top of mind for them, whereas that would have been the case before.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, so you talked about like certifications, kind of like how people like stick out. What are other ways that entry level people could stick out in there? Especially I'm doing network administration for associates and then cybersecurity as a bachelor's. What are ways that I could stick out maybe for like job opportunities and stuff like that, other than like certifications and like the degrees and stuff like that?
Yeah. So certification, networking, I would definitely encourage internship if you haven't already done one. That's one to keep in mind. Corewell Health always has internship opportunities, but they go by very fast. For example, we have summer internships coming up that we've already hired for. So my team, we already made an offer for a summer intern that wouldn't start till sometime end of April or May. We made the offer back in November or so, right? So you got to keep your ears peeled to the social networks or subscribe to the job alerts. So internships are good ways to get started, get into companies. But another thing that people sometimes forget is there are job shadowing opportunities. So if you reach out to a company and ask them, hey, I am interested in learning more about what your organization does from a network administration perspective. Do you have any job shadowing opportunities available? Those are not paid opportunities, but they give you a way to get into the company, learn what they do, and also basically introduce yourself to that company that, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. I'm currently in school. And when a position opens up, they'll definitely share that with you as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
So going off of what you mentioned about job shadowing, because I've been like looking at, the popular job search sites, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed. And I mean, you don't really see those kind of job shadowing opportunities. That's just something you just kind of have like reach out to somebody, probably like find some contact information on LinkedIn and then start the conversation from there, I imagine.
Yes, basically. Job shadows usually are not posted to the public, but do exist if somebody internally asks for it. Yes. So like Corewell Health, for example, we actually have formalized hours. It used to not be formalized at all. So, so-and-so can know one person and ask for it and get it. But now they actually have an office that's kind of dedicated to that. So if you reach out to that office, and I'd be happy to share some of the information, they can set you up. You can tell them like what team you're interested in or what type of work you're interested in. So they'll reach out to that team and say, hey, we have someone that's interested in shadowing your team to learn more about XYZ. Would you be open to doing this job shadow for them? So you don't have to necessarily, at least for our organization, you don't have to necessarily know someone on the network team. You can just reach one person and they can help coordinate it.
I have a follow-up question on the topic of internships and job shadowings and things like that. In the tech industry, there are a lot of opportunities, but I think at the same time, there are also a lot of students who are competing for those job shadowing and internship opportunities. And I was wondering if you could speak to any advice you can give students who are facing a lot of rejection when trying to get internships and job shadowing opportunities, and what's important to remember as you're going through this process, but you're not quite at the end of it yet.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think in combination of kind of some of the things that I've mentioned, like networking, it's really hard. Like you said, there's a lot of people competing, and part of it is also starting early. But it's really paying attention to what the job opening requires, right? And I know I hate to say this, but ATS, application tracking system, is a thing. They use AI to sort your application. And if you do not have keywords that match the things that they're listed on their job description, and you didn't know anybody. So for example, I had my internship position probably had 25 applicants. HR is not going to read 25 applications by hand, right? We don't have enough people to do that work. So they need to streamline it. So they're going to go with what the system has given them. So of that 25, my HR team is only going to send me maybe like 4 or 5 tops, because also we don't want managers to spend an entire month just interviewing candidates. So one of the things that's really important is ensuring that your resume has those lines, those keywords that the companies are looking for. And it's really simple these days. If you are using ChatGPT, for example, you can copy and paste the job description, paste your resume, and say, hey, what keywords am I missing, or do I need to include in my resume to help the system, be able to catch me? So then HR looks at it, and then they're going to connect to you. HR also, if the hiring manager knows you, or somebody on the team knows you, they will give preference to those people, because if that person is going to reach out and say, hey, I applied for your internship and I haven't heard back or whatever. And I can go to my HR team and say, hey, I saw that you sent me this 5 candidates, but could I please get the resume of the other person? But I would know that if you never reached out. So those are sort of the key things. And then so if you're getting rejected and you're never getting an interview, right? You're getting auto rejection and you never get an interview. That means there's something wrong with your resume. And I can guarantee you right now, the keywords are missing. If you're getting interviews and not getting follow-up interviews or not the final candidate that's selected, then what you need to focus on is interview prep, right? So kind of understanding where the rejection is happening helps you know where to focus your extra effort on. Hope that helps.
Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you. And reminder for folks on Zoom, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and I can read them to Joanna.
And then, and I'll mention just one more thing. One other thing that's really helpful is a lot of times we also say we don't have any experience, but employers and hiring managers are also looking for, like, what have you tried to do? So if you're going for network administration, for example, can you share like real life examples of things that you've done? And real life examples doesn't have to mean that you have done a paid job. It could be your lab work, right, that you've done for school. But if it's also something that you really enjoy doing, you would also have things that you've built on your own time. And maybe you're using Packet Tracer. I don't know if that's still a thing, but when I was going to school for network administration, that was a big thing. You can build networks, different scenarios in Packet Tracer, and you can share that with your employer as some of the things that you've done. And that is in fact experience. What we don't want to see is someone that doesn't have any experience, has not done anything outside the classroom, or maybe even within the classroom can't speak to the practical application of that thing.
I got another question.
Okay, Dinell, did you have a question first?
Yeah, sorry. So you mentioned like different clubs that you were part of. How do we like get in contact or like be part of like those clubs?
Yeah, I can I'll drop the links with Linus to share after this, so that you can join us. CSA actually has an event coming up this month. I would also drop that link as well, so that'd be a good event to attend.
Okay.
I don't actually remember the date, but I'll grab it.
And a follow-up to that is that in our newsletter, we try to send out as many community tech events as possible. So we include events from Cloud Security Alliance as well as like GR Web Dev, West
Perfect.
Michigan AI Lab, things like that.
Okay.
John.
In our last career conversation, speaker spoke the importance of having like a digital work. And he was in the opposite. Have you ever seen like a digital portfolio in, let's say, network administration, something that a student can work on a project and then show it to an employer?
I think someone needs to say that closer to me. I couldn't catch all of it, so I want to make sure that I'm answering the right thing.
Yeah, I can repeat it. In a previous career conversation, we had a speaker speak to the importance of having a digital portfolio. His background was in AI, and so this question is, can you speak to the importance of digital portfolios in other sectors of the tech industry, like network administration, for example?
Yeah, I think digital portfolios are important for every area, right? Even not just in tech work, just in today's world, whether you're a teacher, whether you are, okay, maybe not a plumber, but but in most of the work I do think it's important. That's kind of where I was speaking about like LinkedIn, right? Being able to showcase your skills. That's sort of part of that digital portfolio. So if you were a network administrator, for example, your digital portfolio will include some of those projects that you have done. The networks that you've built. You can, and you know what's so great about AI now is that you can create different scenarios. If you're not even sure what use case to use, you can like literally tell Chat GPT and be like, I'm new, I'm sorry, I'm picking on your network administration. I'm new to network administration. I'm currently in college and I'm looking to build a digital portfolio. What types of use cases could I build a network around to showcase my skills? And it will give you different things, right? Like it would give you something around like a public network versus private network, or it would tell you a story. You can have it build a whole story, like a hospital that is looking to migrate from like this type of network system to this type of network system. What would you do about it? And you can just kind of practice those skills, and you can use that as your portfolio as well. And also, if you're volunteering, so one of the things that's also usually good is like being able to volunteer for things. If you did some type of volunteer work, you could use those as well as your example or in your digital portfolio. Like when I was really into web development, I would build websites for people, and I would use that as my portfolio.
Thank you. We also have a question in the chat that I wanted to highlight really quickly. Someone said that they don't get responses from LinkedIn job applications, and they said, I've heard LinkedIn is not a good place to apply because many posts are not real jobs. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Okay. So I've heard a lot of things about this, and I don't know that I have verifiable sources for it, but I've heard that like companies, when they want to look good for their shareholders, for example, they're like, you know, the reason why we're failing is because we don't have employees to do X, Y, Z. And then shareholders are like, well, why haven't you hired? Or like, it's really hard to hire. So they post all these positions so that they can say, here are the positions, we've had it open this long, we've not been able to fill it. Granted, like I said, I don't have verifiable information on that. I've heard it. But one thing I do know about LinkedIn is that, so a lot of times, depending on what system that the company is using, the company that is posting the job, it's not real-time updates. So what happens is that position could have been closed 2 days ago, but the system, your HR system has not talked back to the LinkedIn posting system. So you're applying kind of within a vacuum, and it's no longer valid. And that's a limitation on the technology itself. I think I always recommend, even if it has like a quick apply, because I fear quick apply is the one that has a lot of the problems, because that just stores it directly in LinkedIn, not necessarily pushing it over to the employer site. So even if it says quick apply, that instead of applying there, that you go directly to the company's website, because that's the way that you can guarantee that it goes to that system. But then again, also again, your keywords needs to match and all of that. But I think it's all combination of three things, whether it's bloated job posting or the system is not updating accurately, therefore just holding your resume. That any of those could be the reason.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Victoria. Joanna, were you able to hear that question?
I cannot hear Victoria at all. I'm sorry.
It's okay, I'll repeat it. She asked if you could speak to when a recruiter reaches out to you on LinkedIn, what are best practices for handling those situations? Do they tend to lead to valid job employment, or is it something to be more wary of?
So it's two things. There are a lot of scams out there, right, where people are trying to steal your information, which you always should be careful of. But there are legitimate recruiters on LinkedIn every day that are scanning through people that may fit their job roles. I would always just approach it in hopes that it is true, right? And not fake you. You want to ask specific questions like, what company is this for? Could you share the company's website? Because what you want to do is be able to go to the website to verify that this is in fact a real company. What exactly does the job entail? Although I would say with the job website, so a lot of the people that also recruiters that reach out are contracting companies. So they hire people for organizations on a temporary basis. And sometimes those positions may not be posted on the employer's website or the contracting website. So that is possible. But I would just ask clear questions on what does the job entail? So, clear job description. What is the company, if there is a website, or does the link exist? Is the job posted externally that they can share as well? And just be open to having the conversation. I always think it's good to leave on good terms, because a lot of those recruiters, even though you may not be the right fit at the time, if the conversation was pleasant and they liked what they learned about you, they will keep you in mind for future opportunities. And I'm also speaking as someone that was hired through a third-party company to Corewell Health that I later got hired into.
Thank you.
We are having a tech recruiter come in and speak this April.
Late March, yeah. Just to repeat what John said for the folks on Zoom, we have a speaker who is a tech recruiter coming in, I think it's March 26th, to talk more about the process of recruiting specifically for tech jobs.
Yep. They are great. You want to find one recruiter and keep them in your corner forever. So if something ever happens, you want to call them up and be like, hey, can you get me out of this situation that I'm in right now to another one? So I try not to piss them off usually.
Do we have any more questions in person or on Zoom?
I do have one, actually.
Yeah,
So
go
going
ahead.
back to when you mentioned about the digital portfolio and how important it is, and using that as a way of like set yourself apart from the competition per se, because I can easily, I think, especially anyone going to IT, is like, oh, I know how to build a computer, but it's like hard to like prove that you actually can. Like, is there like a way, like, is there like a specific way of like wording it? Like, yeah, I could prove it because like, in my example, I actually did. So do I just like, oh yeah, here's the parts that I ordered off Amazon, Newegg, or even went to Best Buy to buy them in person? Can I use that as like a leverage in those kind of interviews?
Yeah, I think so. So I think for your digital portfolio, you can talk about what type of computer you built. Like, I needed a computer for gaming. That's a bad example, but easy one. But a lot of people build computers for gaming, right? Specifically because I wanted to play this type of game. And this were the specifications of what I needed to play this game. And here's how I went about it, right? Like, I had to look for, maybe my limitation was $300 versus $1,000. So I had to do an analysis of, can I get away with less RAM and have more of a solid state drive? Whatever the things that you did to come to the decision that this were the right parts for you to buy, who you bought it from, and how long did it take you to build it. If you have little videos of you doing it, then you can do that. You can share the spec sheet. You can share. What's also really important is what sort of road challenges did you have while you were building this system, right? Like, I finished building it and it powered on, but it was not playing the game, or I found out that the RAM was not the right RAM, or whatever the case may be. Like, those challenges are important too, because it kind of helps us see how you think and how you are able to solve problems. But on your resume, you can record it. So people that don't have a lot of experience, you can put projects. It's a totally acceptable thing on your resume. to call out built a brand new computer for XYZ. And then when you go to your interview, you can kind of talk about it more.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
So, Professor Rosamond says hi. I don't know if you remember him.
Hi, of course I do.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Wow. He's a good resource to have in your corner. So
Yeah,
if you all don't know him, be sure to connect with him. He always knows all the little things that's happening in the community. That's helpful to students as well. And he's a big advocate for getting students what they need when they need them. All right. If there are no further questions, I'll be sure to share those links. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Shoot me a question, any question that you may have. I'll do my best to answer. I don't always have the answers, but I can probably point you in other people's directions that may be better to answer that question.
And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to speak to our students here.
Of course.
Round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. Always love to have the conversations.
Yeah, thank you. So for students, feel free to stick around on the Zoom. I'll go over some future tech careers updates. But yeah, thank you again, Joanna, for taking the time to talk to us.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay. All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen. Looks good in person. Can I get a thumbs up from someone on Zoom if you can see my screen or not? Okay, awesome. All right, so this is the event graphic for the event that we just had, but now I want to highlight what we have coming up. So next week, Wednesday, I believe, yeah, next week, Wednesday, March 12th at 4:30, we actually have someone from HR in Corewell Health, where Joanna just worked, coming in to talk about what the process of submitting a job application for a tech job looks like. So our guest speaker will be Sharon Vriend Robinette. She works in talent accumulation at Corewell, and she'll be going over things like from your side of things, you'll click submit on your resume, your cover letter, and your application. And then she'll walk you through step by step what happens after that for a tech job, and it can be generalized to other jobs outside of tech as well. She'll also be going over what tech recruiters and HR teams are looking for in resumes and interviews, as well as how to stand out from other entry-level applicants. And if you're interested in RSVPing, the QR code is on screen for that right now. And if you don't want to scan it right now, you can also find the RSVP form on our Raider Connect profile, where we host all of our event information. So if you type in Future Tech Careers to Raider Connect, you'll see this event tile pop up. So that is our next upcoming event. And then we also, I think, have 3 or 4 more events planned for this semester. The following Wednesday, actually, the following Tuesday, we have Marilyn Addy coming in. She's the director of global performance at LinkedIn, and she's going to talk about how to create or optimize a LinkedIn profile. Also, as we previously mentioned, we have Travis Lark coming in. He's a technical recruiter. He'll be going over something very similar to what Sharon Vriend Robinette will be going over with what tech recruiters are looking for. And he'll also be hosting a workshop on how to network in person, whereas Marilyn at LinkedIn, her workshop will be going over how to network online. And then finally, we'll have another career pathways discussion similar to this discussion today, except instead of talking about IT, we'll be having someone who works in cybersecurity specifically talk about his experience in cybersecurity and how he got to where he is now. And he actually started as a GRCC student. So he'll really be able to relate to you guys and talk about what steps he took and hopefully give some actionable tips for you. And that's on April 1st. But all of these events, again, are on our Raider Connect profile. And then finally, if this is your first Future Tech Careers event, and you really enjoyed it, the QR code on the right will take you to our interest form, which if you scan it, will just give us all the information we need from you to stay in touch with you and keep you updated on following events and stuff like that. But if you've attended Future Tech before and filled out the interest form, if you could take a couple minutes to scan our attendance form, that would be really great. That just helps us provide, or not provide, that just helps us gather data on what events students are most interested in coming to so that we can host more events like these in the future. And it's super quick. It's just questions like name, email, what was the title of the event, how long was it, and any feedback.